When it comes to your child's health,
You want care that's close, convenient,
and centered around the needs of your family.
At MMC Pediatrics, we're more than just doctors.
We're partners in your parenting journey.
here for every growth spurt,
for every boo-boo,
every fever, and every flu.
Our team approach means that your child always sees someone that knows them.
We are MMC Pediatrics.
We are right beside you.
Every step of the way.
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable, Tennessee Association of Broadcasters Award winner for Best Local Talk Show. A look at the news, views, politics, sports, and people shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning, everyone. This is Bill Wilson, Mr. Murfreesboro. I hope everybody's having a great day. You had a great weekend. Welcome to the Roundtable here on WGNS 1450 AM, 100.5 and 101.9 FM Talk Radio. And I'm excited about today's show. I don't get excited a lot, but y'all know, if you know me personally, you know that I'm a big history buff. I mean, I just love history. Just love it. Since fifth grade, when I dressed up like Hernando de Soto on the wrong day in Miss Mosier's fifth grade campus school class, and I think that's when I began to drink. But anyway, I'm excited to have the Tennessee history nerd John Hughes with us this morning. John Summers. No, I knew it was John Summers. Why am I stuck on John Hughes? But anyway, John Summers, the Tennessee history nerd, and you need to follow his podcast, follow him on Facebook and Instagram.
What do have Instagram?
John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here. Good to be here.
And he is a Marine veteran.
I am a Marine veteran. Now, I try not to talk too much about that because there are. I didn't serve in combat. I was, in the reserves. There are guys that, sure. I talk to them and I'm like, yeah, I'm like.
But you still went through the basic training.
Went through boot camp, earned the EGA.
You're also a Church of Christ preacher, right?
I am. Yes.
So how cool is that? A Marine and a Church of Christ preacher.
And it's
just in itself,
right? And then it's. There are probably some people that think that that's a rather strange combination because it actually is.
It is. You think about it. But you've got your newsy hat on. Is that called a newsy hat?
It's called a newsboy cap.
A newsboy cap.
Yes, it is.
There was a play called the Newsies, I think. Now, not the Uzis, but the Newsies. But
okay.
It's orange. You're a Tennessee fan.
I am a Tennessee fan. Yeah, we've my wife and I for a number of years we've had season tickets for Neyland Stadium for football, and we've managed. Even those ticket prices are climbing. We're managing to hold on to those at least for now.
No refinancing the house, right? No. What about you? One of your episodes, you go to General Neyland's, and we're going to be skipping around here. I'll just tell you that. But General Neyland, where's he buried?
Okay, so he's buried, and actually what that is a reel. It's not one of my episodes. It's one of the video reels that I do on Facebook. My episodes are all audio based, and they're much longer. But that particular reel that you're talking about, buddy of mine, grew up with him. He is dyed in the wool. He bleeds orange, graduated from the University of Tennessee, worked for the Vol Network, lives in Knoxville now. He is, his name's Eric Bonner. And Eric, if you're out there and you happen to listen to this, hey, I just gave you a plug. Anyway, he took me to the Veterans Cemetery there in Knoxville, the East Tennessee Veterans Cemetery in Knoxville. Robert Neyland, when he was buried, didn't want something special. He just wanted
a headstone.
Wanted a headstone to be remembered as a soldier. There's nothing on there about the university.
And he was a real general.
He really was. He was Brigadier General in the United States Army. Sure was.
And he was didn't he get out of coaching and then World War II? Did he serve during that time, or was it Korean?
Yeah, so he actually went to the University of Tennessee as, if I remember correctly, as an ROTC instructor in the time between the world wars, and that's when he began coaching there and kind of changed the face of SEC because he immediately started having some pretty significant success. Tennessee had not been really successful. They've been okay, but they hadn't been great. It hadn't had great success against Vanderbilt.
Sewanee.
Yeah, well, Sewanee. By the time the SEC came around, Sewanee was a shell of themselves. They were no longer a power. Matter of fact, Sewanee they were charter members of the SEC, but they never won a single game in the SEC.
Wow.
But in its predecessor to the SEC, they were beasts. I mean, and I've got an episode on that. Yeah, from the 1899 team, but. I mean, Vanderbilt, Dan McGugan was a huge force, and Vanderbilt was a power in the early 1900s. Some of that started changing when Neyland showed up at Tennessee.
Right,
and then
General.
Yeah, and then he did go into. I mean, he was in the Army even when he was coaching up there to start with.
He used tactics from his military days.
More,
I think.
I would say so. Yeah, and I mean his maxims are still used today. I mean,
I'm not going to ask you to quote those.
That's good because I couldn't do it without looking them up.
But there was a season or two where they scored like I don't know how many points to like 30 to very few points.
Yeah,
scored against.
Yeah,
they were just dominating everybody.
Their defenses were always under Neyland. They were always just unbelievable defenses.
And people don't realize the history of Tennessee. There was a guy named was it Bobby Dodd that went to Atlanta to coach.
Was it Georgia Tech?
But he played at UT, I'm pretty sure.
Well, one of the guys that...
Or was it Wyatt? There's a last guy named Wyatt. That was
there's a guy, his name was Paul Bryant, that some people may have heard of.
You talking about Bear Bryant?
He coached a year or two down at Alabama, and he credits Neyland for teaching him everything he knew as a coach.
Let's cover one more sports thing that happened in the 1920s. Cumberland University, Georgia Tech was needing to play, or somebody canceled on them, and then do you know the story of that?
Are you talking about when they played the team?
222 to nothing.
Yeah. And what happened? That was when John Heisman was coaching there.
Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. Yes, for whom? Yeah. But and Heisman had previously been at Auburn. Actually, it was at Auburn when the team from Sewanee beat them in Montgomery. They played in Montgomery that year. It was pretty interesting the way that went.
Right.
But anyway, by the time that you're talking about with Cumberland, the Cumberland team had played Georgia Tech in baseball. And I think they'd won, and I think they'd run the score up just a little bit on them. It
kind of made somebody mad.
And it made Heisman, who was... I'll say it what it is. He was known for being arrogant. He didn't much care for them running the score up on them, and so when he had the opportunity to do the same in the football season, he did not hold back. And it was brutal. And that's a record that will never be touched.
And my understanding is there were some players that they just went to bars. They took a train and went down to Atlanta, and they would stop. And they would pull people out of bars and stuff. They weren't even really players that played in. But the final score was like 200.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And I I will say that in the early days of athletics, there was a lot less in the way of regulation to ensure that people were actually, no kidding, students. Sewanee was known for being pretty strict about that. You had to be a student there. Now, what you didn't have eligibility like you have now.
Right.
So if somebody wanted to play 8 or 10 years, as long as they were a student, okay.
Now it's all artificial intelligence, your name, like, image, and all that stuff.
Well, you've got all that going
portal,
on, but you've also got the eligibility.
Right.
And that's something that changed, in later years. But
so
even in the team, the Sewanee team in 1899, some of the teams they played had guys that they were playing against that weren't actual, weren't student athletes. They were they were athletes, but they weren't students.
The head of the math department, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's. I think what you're saying is true. What I say is not always.
Okay.
The fact is that when did you really start loving history?
I can't remember when I didn't.
Because of why?
Well, my mom was a history teacher, but that came later. She actually graduated from college when I was a junior in high school, and she became a history teacher later. But her love of history had been there all along too, and that carried across with us. I can remember her. She was kind of the genealogist of the family, and I mean, she dragged us through cemeteries across 6 counties doing genealogical research. And, you know, at the time, some of it seemed rather tedious, but it, I guess, rubbed off a little bit. But, I mean, I can remember, I thought about this on the way down. As I was coming in, I drove a good ways on Old 41 to come into to Murfreesboro from Coffee County. And as you're driving along, you can see over to the side where the old highway used to be. It's clear.
It still has little places where there were the boards and stuff. I think that
you can see bridges in places where it was. You can see the roadbed itself.
Right.
And you know, things like that. I always look at that and go, why'd they change it? You know, when did they change it?
They straightened it out.
Well, in some cases, some of it is straightened out. I mean, you go through, for example, Beech Grove. Oscar Crowell Road is obviously the old road,
right?
But you know, the road going through now is much straighter than it was then, and so obviously there's that. But then, you know, what when did it happen? I mean, because I don't even know that sometimes.
Like Las Casas Highway going towards the lake, towards Smithville. Look to your left. There's intermittent.
Oh yeah,
where the old Las Casas Highway or old Smithville Highway, whatever they called it back then. I remember it was in the 70s. I think they straightened a lot of that road out, but because it was curvy. I remember it being curvy because my sister, she and her husband at the time lived in Smithville. We would go visit when we were kids, but.
And I remember going up that road the very first time I ever remember for sure going up that road. I probably did before then, but we weren't from Rutherford County. I was a student, freshman, fall of 1987 at Middle Tennessee State, and a guy who's a judge in Fentress County by the name of Todd Burnett now.
I know that name.
Yeah, so
not because he's a judge.
Right. So anyway, Todd was in student government, and I got involved in student government at Middle Tennessee State, which at that time was called ASB. It's now called the SGA, I think.
Yes, it is SGA.
But it was the Associated Student Body when I started ASB. And we went up to a retreat on Center Hill Lake at Tech Aqua. They had their retreat up there. And I rode with Todd, and that's the way we went going up there. And that's the first time I remember going that way.
And it was curvy, like if you're driving through Pikeville, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
There's no guardrails on those roads. But what do you want to talk about? There's so much that we could cover.
Well, it's this your show, man.
Let's talk about stuff that goes around here, things that happen here, like the Trail of Tears, which goes down Memorial Boulevard. And tell us again, I'm
from Warren County. I grew up in Warren County.
Okay. But the Trail of Tears, let's talk about that. That was dealing with President Jackson getting rid of the Native Americans, sent them to Oklahoma. Is that?
It went to Oklahoma, and
elaborate on that.
And it was actually, so it started with Jackson. He's the one who signed it into law. It was actually, if I remember correctly, Martin Van Buren who enforced it.
Right.
Because by then Jackson had already left office as president, but. You know, Jackson, he was involved in a lot of, depends on which side of the argument you're on. It's either land acquisitions or land grabs, depending on
land grabs.
So, but I mean, he was involved in the treaty of Fort Jackson after Horseshoe Bend with the Creek Indians. He was involved in some of the acquisitions that went on in East Tennessee. I mean, before he ever ended up in Nashville, he was a lawyer in Jonesboro, actually. And then he was involved in the late 18 teens, I think it was 1818, involved in the Jackson Purchase when they got pretty much all of West Tennessee and most of western Kentucky from the Chickasaws.
And Murfreesboro was the state capital in 1818, 1826. But go ahead. Finish.
Right. Well, yeah, and so
he would come here to visit.
Right. And the state capital moved around a good bit. I mean, it started out in Knoxville, and then it moved ultimately ended up, of course, in Nashville. But it changed a little bit over the years in the early years. But the Trail of Tears itself, there's not just one. A lot of times I lived on the Trail of Tears. I actually grew up on one branch of the Trail of Tears in Warren County. It passed right through Warren County. One branch of it did. But when you realize that basically during the 1820s and 30s, maybe even into the 1840s a little bit, was a time of the European descendants, settlers of that were descendants of European settlers, were coming in and really taking as much as they could of the land that was already here, that the Native Americans, the indigenous people, were already on. And as a result, there was a lot of acrimony, a lot of animosity, obviously. But, I mean, you had trails that were coming from the Seminoles leaving Florida. You had trails from, the Cherokee leaving Alabama and Georgia and East Tennessee. You had, where they were leaving Mississippi,
Chickasaw
with the Choctaw and Creeks, and you had the Chickasaw in West Tennessee and Kentucky. So I mean, all of those tribes were being pushed into what is today Oklahoma, which was promised to them as a reservation that would be theirs forever, or until the 1890s, whichever came first, right?
Right.
So as a result, there was this real. I mean, there was animosity, and you can understand, I think, why. In fact, the Cherokee had been pushed out of East Tennessee down into northern Georgia. And when you if you head down to Atlanta, between Chattanooga going down to Atlanta, there's an exit there that says New Echota. New Echota was the capital of the Cherokee Nation, and they had their own printing press. They had their own written language that had been started by Sequoyah. And then gold was discovered in Georgia.
And that just...
And as a result,
it went up.
Now we want the land that we said that the Cherokee could keep. And, when you get to going back to Jackson, there was a court case. I want to say it was Worcester versus the state of Georgia, if I'm remembering correctly. I may have that incorrect, and if I've got it incorrect, please don't excoriate me, because I'm trying to do this from memory here. But that court battle went to the Supreme Court, and the Cherokee Nation, Worcester represented the Cherokee Nation. They won.
The Cherokees won.
The Cherokees won, and Andrew Jackson is said to have stated, John Marshall, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it. And, of course, John Marshall couldn't enforce it because he's not head of the military. Didn't have anything to do with the military. Well, he's not the executive branch. That was Jackson's job, and he abdicated.
Whatever
on that.
happened.
Right. So, as a result, the way he saw it, and the way a lot of the United States government saw it, the Native Americans were very inefficient with how they used the land resources. It took a whole lot more acreage to support those tribes who were supporting themselves by hunting. And by the way, because of the fur trade, they had overhunted in a lot of cases. So it was taking more and more land for them to achieve the same amount of things. And, so there was a movement in the early 1800s that had been started even in the late 1700s with Washington, and it continued on through Jefferson, to teach the Native Americans how to be good citizens, make them into clones of the Americans. And teach them how to farm, and there was even over at Fort Loudon, there was I said Fort Loudon. It's the blockhouse at Teleco, the Teleco Blockhouse. They had what they called the factory, and that was there to teach Native Americans skills, like, for example, Sequoyah learned how to be a blacksmith there. So those were skills that they were teaching them so that they could become good settlers, live on 40 acres instead of
Blend
living
in.
right. But even then, when they were doing that, it wasn't enough. Get out. We want your land.
Right. Get out of here. This is our land, even though it was their land.
Right. So,
Right. This is before law came into effect, really. I mean, you know what I mean? Let's talk, let's switch gears here. Let's talk about Mud Island in Memphis.
okay.
Because Meredith, that's where Meredith, she played golf at Memphis State and went to school there, graduated from there. But Mud Island,
Yeah, Mud Island.
tell us what it had. I had no idea there was an airport there.
Yeah, so Mud Island, it started as basically a mud bar. There are stories that it was created around the the grounding of a Navy gunboat there, the Amphitrite, but I can't verify that for sure. I've seen it in some histories, but the official history of the Amphitrite itself doesn't really show that. It shows that it was in St. Louis at the time, and supposedly it was grounded on the bar in the river there next to Memphis. But this mud bar started. It was siltation that was coming out of the Wolf River right there above Memphis that grew over time, and even in the 1930s, it was still blood flow below floodplain. The people that had squatted on it had to live in houses built on stilts to make sure that they didn't flood. But they were squatters. They eventually were forced off, and the southern end of the island, they made the downtown Memphis airport there. And that was built. It opened in 1959. It was there for 11 years. They had a 20-year lease, but they reckoned when they were doing that without Interstate 40 coming across. Interstate 40, actually, I've seen plans from 1958. It was already planned before the airport went in. But
during Eisenhower, the big push for interstate systems.
Right. But the initial plan was that it would go directly across Mud Island, go right through the center of Memphis, go right across Overton Park, which had been there since the early 1900s, has old growth trees in it. It's got virgin forest in it. And so they, when all this was going on, there were a bunch of citizens in Memphis that pushed back on it.
They said, no way.
And they took it all the way to the Supreme Court. They won. It changed how eminent domain happens in the country. It was the first time, really, to my knowledge, that the federal government in an eminent domain case had lost.
Because they were wanting to take the interstate
directly through.
It stops and then it turns, right? Is that how the I-40 is?
So what they ended up doing was putting it on the route that is I-240 going around the north of Memphis now.
Wow.
But that airport was important for business folks going in.
Wow. We're going to continue with the Tennessee History Nerd. You've been listening to the Roundtable. We'll be right back.
When it comes to your child's health,
You want care that's close, convenient.
And centered around the needs of your family.
At MMC Pediatrics, we're more than just doctors.
We're partners in your parenting journey.
Here for every growth spurt,
for every boo-boo,
every fever, and every flu.
Our team approach means that your child always sees someone that knows them.
We are MMC Pediatrics.
We are right beside you.
Every step of the way.
I'll be right there.
It takes all of us to power a community, both in plain sight and behind the scenes. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
At Maples Realty and Auction, we handle traditional sales, auctions, and property management. And we have a development called The Maples with local builders and amenities. I'm Betsy Maples, and this is our team. It's our people. That's the difference. Call us today and let us help you get your property sold.
I refer a lot of clients to Maples Realty when we have real estate issues that are coming up. Working with Maples has been easy for me, easy for my clients.
Put our 57 years of success to work for you. Sold!
Hey folks, it's Chip Walters from Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, helping Middle Tennessee make smart moves in a fast-moving market. Whether you're buying, selling, or just exploring your options, you deserve someone who knows this community and treats your goals like their own. From first-timers to long-time homeowners, I'm here to guide you with clarity, confidence, and a steady hand. When you're ready to make the next move, start with someone you trust. Visit choosechip.net and let's make your 2026 move the right move.
Hey, this is Trevor from Bell Jewelers, inviting you to come shop with us. And if you haven't noticed, gold and silver has gone through the roof this year. To save you money, bring in your gold and silver from home so we can use that to make your special piece. Or we can trade it in. Trust. It's very important in this business. Bell Jewelers has been the store that people trust since 1879. Come see us at Bell Jewelers. Bell Jewelers, 821 Northwest Broad Street, across from Toots.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and AmeriCare Pest Control.
This is a paid legal ad.
There are no bad questions. I would encourage anybody who has been injured and they believe it's somebody else's fault to reach out to us. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, and we're happy to give answers.
Turn left, they're there. You turn right, they're there. They was just there. And to me, they're the number one. They're the number one in the world.
Trust the lawyers other lawyers trust.
The law office of John Day, they were great.
Trust the law offices of John Day.
They saved my life.
Now, Good Neighbor Events. Here's Bart Walker.
This is our Independence Day week. And for those of you here in Rutherford County, you don't have to drive out of town to enjoy the 4th of July. If you live in Smyrna, the fireworks display is this Thursday night, July 2nd, 5 o'clock, and that's over at the Lee Victory Recreation Park. The fireworks begin at dark in Smyrna. That's this Thursday. Then on the 4th of July, Saturday, the oldest Independence Day celebration in Rutherford County is in Rockvale. It's 98 years old this year. It continues at the Rockvale Community Center. Step back in time and enjoy an old-fashioned style picnic with barbecue, hamburgers, homemade ice cream, and famous local fried pies. Plus family-oriented hay rides, youth softball, and cornhole tournaments. The admission is free. That's 10 a.m. through the afternoon on Saturday, the 4th of July. In Laverne, it's at 5:30 at the Veterans Memorial Park. Details in a moment on Celebration Under the Stars. That's Saturday in Murfreesboro.
Rutherford weather.
Daytime highs approaching 97. Today, under mainly sunny skies. Lows around 75. Tonight, clear skies. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Right now, it's 79 degrees.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Thanks to Sharing Change, MTE members are making a difference just by rounding up their monthly bills to support local nonprofits. See how it works at sharingchange.org.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back to the Roundtable. We have John Summers, the Tennessee history nerd, as our guest, and we are talking everything history. We were just talking about Mud Island. And then we were going to talk about, what about the lost? Murfreesboro was not the first county seat. It was Jefferson. Talk about Jefferson.
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, you go back to the beginning when Tennessee when it became a state. There were actually 9 counties, only 9 counties. Same landmass. But there were 9 counties, and so the 95 counties that we have today have been from each of those 9 counties being subdivided, and then those being subdivided, and those being subdivided. And Rutherford County was formed when Sumner County was subdivided to make Wilson County, Davidson County was subdivided to make Williamson County, and then Wilson and Williamson each gave up some land to become Rutherford County.
1803.
And a guy by the name of Thomas Bedford was a Revolutionary War soldier. He had land grants in this area. Also had some, I think, in Kentucky. But he and a friend of his, whose name at this point escapes me, but they went to form this town on the Stones River. I think it was the Stones River, called Jefferson. And of course, everybody now knows about Jefferson Pike, but there's a lake right in the middle of it, right? So
Priest.
Yeah, Percy Priest, and Jefferson is a ghost town under the lake, and there's a lot of those in Tennessee because with the Tennessee Valley Authority, we had a good bit of rivers being dammed, and towns that were there on the rivers ended up under the water. Electricity, and navigation, and flood control, and a whole host of reasons. One of the things I remember, and don't ask me how this happened, but I remember it came out of high school history, and it was kind of funny. Somehow or other, the manufacture of fertilizer also came into that, and I don't know how that worked out, but I remember that as being an odd thing that you wouldn't necessarily think as a result of a dam going in. But I mean, you had Jefferson was one of those places, and with it, I don't think it was part of the Tennessee Valley Authority. I think it may have been involved with the old Air Force Base, but I'm not positive on that. Don't quote me on it, but it certainly was right there next to the old Air Force Base, which, of course, what's left of that is now Smyrna Airport.
Right. But Murfreesboro was the capital of Tennessee. I think it was 1818 to 1826, somewhere around in there. But we lost it to Nashville. One of the big reasons was the big boats, commerce couldn't get down. Because you can go to Stones River and just walk across it.
And parts of it, yeah.
Whereas Nashville has the Cumberland River, which dumps into the Ohio River, which dumps into the Mississippi River, gave it a more appealing.
And it's a major navigable river. Of course, Murfreesboro is, if you're talking geographic center, it's much more close to that. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, the obelisk that marks the geographic center is out on Lascassas Pike.
Old Lascassas, over by the college.
Yeah, old Lascassas Pike is there. But you're still pretty centrally located with
just a little north.
Nashville. It's a little north of center, but not far enough that it's a huge problem. And it is on a major navigable river.
It is, and get around better. But the aviation was a big thing here in Rutherford County in the 1920s, 30s. With the Sky Harbor was known as what? Sky Harbor, was it the Nashville?
It was. Yeah, it was. I'm told that was the original Nashville airport. Now that goes back. You're taking me 40 years back to when I was a student at Middle Tennessee State in the aerospace department, and so I'm trying to remember some of the things that I never actually found that place. I looked for it. Yeah, you and I, we talked about that when we had lunch one day.
I'll show it to you, but it's old Nashville Highway. It's near Florence. It's between, you go out off Burleson, if you know where Burleson Lane is, right across, there used to be a boat factory.
Okay,
and
I know where that is.
That's where the Sky Harbor is, and I've got that.
Okay.
That history thing that I've got where a plane crashed. It was like 1929, 30-something.
Yeah, it was an actress, wasn't it? Yeah.
Ruth Chatterton was flying in and there was a Bowery ball going on that Mrs. Ezel and Mrs. Dill were putting on. It was a charity thing.
Okay.
And the plane crashed. She survived. And I've got a piece of that plane and Ruth Chatterton's autograph, and then the newspaper
That's awesome.
Article about that. We'll look at that sometime.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But Sky Harbor was a big deal, and that's where they Wiley Post? There were several.
Oh yeah, Wiley Post was a big aviation guy.
They used to fly in here quite a bit.
And Wiley Post was killed in a plane crash, and Will
Rogers.
Will Rogers, yeah. That's trying to say the Cherokee comedian Will Rogers Sr. Was with him when they crashed in, I think it was Alaska.
Right. But so what else do you want to? What do you have going on with your podcast? What do you have releasing right now? What are you working on?
So this morning, one of the things that I'm doing, I'm trying to in order to cover the entire state and make sure that we cover the entire state, not just the fun stories that everybody knows. I'm doing spotlights on each county. And so every other week I do a county spotlight. I call that segment Driving Across Tennessee, whatever county that is, edition. And so
95, you're trying to go through
going to go through all 95 counties before I'm done. So I'm going to need you guys really to support the podcast to make sure that I can get through all 95 counties, because that's going to take some time. That's 95 episodes in and of itself right there. But this morning I released Driving Across Tennessee, Benton County edition.
What city is that? Bentonville?
That's Camden.
No, it's Bentonville, isn't it?
That's Camden.
No, it's Camden.
It's Camden.
That's West Tennessee.
That's West Tennessee. It's just across the river. And you cross over the Tennessee River on I-40, you're in Benton County.
Okay.
And, the first exit there is for the Birdsong Resort. It's exit
Loretta
one.
Lynn lived out there somewhere.
Loretta Lynn is actually in Humphreys County before you get there.
Okay.
So I believe that's Humphreys County. She's in Hurricane Mills.
Hurricane Mills.
So her good friend, Patsy Cline, was killed in Benton County.
That plane that crashed.
The plane crash, it was March 5th of 1963, if I remember correctly. Right. It was Patsy Cline, whose real name was Virginia Patterson Hensley, and Cowboy Copus, and Hawkshaw Hawkins were the three passengers. The pilot's name was Randy Hughes. Randy Hughes was also Patsy Cline's manager and guitar player, and he was Cowboy Copus's son-in-law.
No kin to you. No, I mean Summers. Go ahead.
Right. So the thing with I think about that. The tragedy that was there. Hawkshaw Hawkins was married to Jean Shepherd, who was also a Grand Ole Opry star, and she was 8 months pregnant when he was killed.
Did not know that.
Yeah, so their child was born a month after its dad died. But, and that's a huge tragedy, but you stop and think about the daughter of Cowboy Copus lost both her father and her husband in that same accident because her husband was the pilot.
And there's a marker there.
There's a marker there. And so it's in rural, it's right off of Mount Carmel Road in rural Benton County. And so, yeah, you can actually
that Benton County is known for that. I mean, that's
probably the biggest thing it's known for. That, and of course, being on the Kentucky Lake, there's
right.
But also, another thing it's known for, in a large way, is Tennessee freshwater pearls, because that's where the pearl farm is. The Tennessee River Freshwater Pearl Museum is there. But even before that, back in the day, the braille boats used to go up and down the Tennessee River and harvest the mollusks out of the bottom. But there's the pearl farm is at Birdsong Resort now. Aquaculture, hanging. They have these nets that hang under PVC pipe full of mollusks that they've implanted these what they call nuclei into that become pearls in 6 or 8 years.
So they're growing pearls. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, and that's the only place in North America where that's done. That's in Camden, Tennessee. Yeah,
I did not know that, because that's close to Kentucky as well.
Well, it's a little ways, but it is northwest Tennessee. Yeah. But it's you're probably an hour from Kentucky.
Let's talk about the. I saw one of your episodes how Tennessee was named the Tennesaw. It had. Elaborate on that. That was a Tennesaw. The name Tennessee comes from.
Oh, from Tenassie.
Tenassie, that's it.
Right. So
tenacity.
So over. It's actually in Monroe County now. On the Little Tennessee River is where what was in the days of the colonies when we were still part of North Carolina. This was where the Cherokee Nation was, and the British at that time, since we were part of the British Empire in the mid 1700s, they wanted to have somebody that they could talk to. They wanted a specific person to talk to, and they wanted a specific place they could go to. And a guy by the name of Henry Timberlake was the British representative to the Indians in the mountains there. And so they named the guy that I forget the name of the first Cherokee chief. I'm sorry,
it's okay.
It escapes me, but he named Tenassie as the capital, and of course Tenassie is where the name for Tennessee comes from. Now they ended up moving because Tenassie was low ground. In fact, it was so low that when they created Teleco Lake, it's covered up by the lake, the site of it. Now there's a memorial there on the shoreline, but it's a couple hundred yards from where the town site would have been. But a later chief ended up making Chota, which was about a mile away, to be the capital. And there's also a memorial there as well. There's actually one of the chiefs is buried there. A guy by the name of Oconostota is buried there in what was the doorway of the old town center building.
Wow, I didn't know that. I was going to ask you something. The volunteer state, we got her name.
Yeah. So the volunteer state, and by the way, this is covered in more detail in episode 2. How Tennessee became the volunteer state is the topic of that episode. But the first time we really were known as the volunteer state was in the War of 1812. And if you go down to a place I was at and this is out on some of my stuff that I put out this weekend. I was actually down in Fayetteville in Lincoln County on Saturday they had an open house there at a cabin there called the Greer Cabin, Joseph Greer. Joseph Greer was the messenger of Kings Mountain. Ended up getting, they gave Revolutionary War grants to those guys who had served in the war. And his was in the Lincoln County area, and they moved his cabin down to Camp Blunt, the site of Camp Blunt. Camp Blunt is where all the volunteers, the militia that were going to go with Andrew Jackson down into Alabama to fight the Creek after the Fort Mims massacre, that's where they mustered. A big part of them were right there at Camp Blunt. And there's a big statue there now of the volunteer. And it represents the volunteer spirit. It represents the men who assembled to go fight that war as volunteers.
And later on, the Alamo, where you had Davy Crockett, Sam
the Alamo wasn't Tennessee. That was Texas.
But there were some Tennessee.
There were some Tennesseans there. I mean, you had Davy Crockett was there for sure.
Sam Bowie, or was that his name? He was from Kentucky though. Bowie.
Yeah, Bowie was not from Tennessee. But Sam Houston was. Right. Sam Houston ended up being, he was the general who won at San Jacinto, also San Jacinto, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But, he defeated in that 18-minute battle.
Right.
When they defeated Santa Anna and won the war. That was right outside of Houston, which bears his name. He had been governor of Tennessee.
Right.
Before he went to Texas.
Let's talk about the state of Scott.
The state of Scott.
That was during the Civil War.
State of Scott, I know just enough to be dangerous on. I haven't researched it yet. It is on my list of things.
I'm not gonna make you do. What about rugby? You know anything about rugby? The last English settlement, like 1880, up in East Tennessee.
Yeah. So what I know about it, I know a little bit about it, but I don't know a great deal. It is also on my list of things to research. What I do know about it was that it was a social experiment.
Yes.
And
Thomas Hughes was one of the founders. He was a famous writer from England.
Uh-huh.
And my great-great-grandfather, John Jellicoe, they were buddies. And he brought his family, my family, over from like a rugby England. And it was like you said, it was for the second sons. First sons got to inherit everything. Second sons had to go to work.
Right.
I'm a second son.
I'm an only son, but I still didn't get anything.
You're a brat. No, I'm kidding.
Still didn't get anything.
No, but anyway, I try to use my. You can ask the mayor. Do I get a discount since my family? But what's your favorite part of history? What do you have a favorite part? Do you have, or is it just all?
Man, I tell you what. Wherever I am right now, that's what my favorite part is, because I mean, wherever I go, there's something there. It seems like everywhere that sucks me in.
Right.
And I mean, that's how I ended up doing the podcast down on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, you've got something going on. Was it Mobile?
Yeah, and it's called Dauphin Island Diaries, Mobile County, right there on Mobile Bay. But the reason was because of the intersection of Tennessee history that's down there. Because, you look at the Battle of Mobile Bay, the Union Admiral, a guy by the name of David Farragut, he's from Knoxville.
I think Farragut goes along with the Navy. Farragut goes along with ships.
Correct. He was the admiral over the Union forces in the Battle of Mobile Bay.
Wow.
And he was originally from. He was born at Lowe's Ferry, Campbell Station, right outside of Knoxville, and then on the other side, the flagship of the Confederate forces was the CSS Tennessee.
Tennessee fighting Tennessee.
Tennessee fighting Tennessee. So as a result, I kind of started finding things. I thought, you know what, I need to dig into this a little more, and it's just sucked me in as well, because there's just, I mean, you look, there's even more history in that area, because it was colonized. It was colonized before people were moving into the hinterland, which is where we are. I mean, they were right there on the coast. It was a French colony in the 1700s.
And Louisiana's an interesting state.
Which, by the way, Mobile was the original capital of Louisiana.
Had no idea that.
Yeah, that when it was a French colony, that was where the capital was to begin with. In fact, you know what people don't understand, they don't realize, if you're one of these people who likes a big party, Mardi Gras is a big deal, right? Well, there was a Mardi Gras in Mobile before there even was a New Orleans, let alone a Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Mardi Gras was already going on every year in Mobile.
Did you hear that? It started in Mobile.
It started Alabama, in Mobile.
Not New Orleans.
Not New Orleans.
I've been to New Orleans a few times. I mean, if you go there, is it the Emerald City, or is it?
It's
not Sin City.
The Big Easy.
No, the Big Easy. The Big Easy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of history there.
Oh, there's a ton of history there.
Tennessee Williams wrote a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Louisiana Purchase, maybe.
Oh yeah. And you've got the World War II, the big World War II museum is there. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff.
There's a ton of things down there. So we're fixing to take our last break, but what do you got going on next?
So next, I mean, what I'll be looking at for the Tennessee History Nerd in our next episode next week, we'll be looking at the Battle of Fort Donelson, which is up there on the Cumberland River. Interesting thing there, that's where the mystique of Ulysses Grant started, the unconditional surrender grant. That's where that started, and it's also where you see a surrender between friends, because Simon Bolivar Buckner, who was the Confederate forces were left in his hands when Pillow and Floyd ran. He's the one who had to surrender. He and Grant had been friends for years, and before the war. So
that's coming up.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break. We've been with the Tennessee History Nerd, John Summers. We'll be right back.
When it comes to your child's health,
you want care that's close, convenient,
and centered around the needs of your family.
At MMC Pediatrics, we're more than just doctors.
We're partners in your parenting journey.
Here for every growth spurt,
for every boo-boo,
every fever, and every flu.
Our team approach means that your child always sees someone that knows them.
We are MMC Pediatrics.
We are right beside you
every step of the way.
What's the location of your emergency? I think my kid OD'd.
Hi, I'm Craig Harris. I'm County Commissioner of Rutherford County. One of the reasons I ran for office is because I wanted to bring awareness to the opioid epidemic that's impacting our county. To stop providing this epidemic with people as we educate. We have a lot to do, and we have to come together as a community because this problem is not going away.
Are you tired of feeling like just another number with your insurance provider? At Rayburn Insurance Agency in Smyrna, Agent Rick Hall prides himself on offering personalized service that puts you first. Every client's needs are unique. From personal home and auto coverage to tailored business insurance, Rick Hall's got you covered. Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency in Smyrna, where you're more than just a policy number. You're a neighbor.
The Rutherford County Farmers Market Difference. You want to know what our chickens eat or how our lettuce is grown?
Or maybe about our corn. Just ask.
Your farmer's right there at the booth. That's the Rutherford County Farmers Market Difference.
See you at the Rutherford County Farmers Market, 315 John R. Rice Boulevard.
The people are coming. They come in airplanes and moving vans. Every day we welcome 500 new residents to Tennessee. We cannot let them price us out. It's a challenge our next governor has to solve. I'm John Rose. I'm the 8th generation on our family farm. My boys will be the 9th generation. We need a Tennessee where all our kids and grandkids can afford to make their own future. I'm running for governor to keep Tennessee affordable, to keep China from buying up our farmland, and keep our school curriculum under our control. I'll work to control property taxes for longtime residents and defend our culture. If you want to keep Tennessee, Tennessee, I need your support for governor. I'm John Rose, and I am applying to do the job.
For Governor, John Rose. Keep Tennessee, Tennessee. Paid for by Rose for Tennessee. Jeff Aiken, Treasurer.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back to the Roundtable. Thank you, John Summers, the Tennessee history nerd, for joining us on the Roundtable.
Good to be here today. Good to be here.
We were just talking during the break. What's your thoughts? And we're not getting political or anything. What's your thoughts on history?
Well, so you know what I was telling you. I mean, when you're talking about any event, the two of us, we could go out with 5 of our friends. We could view an event, and there will be 7 different accounts of what happened, and all of that is based upon our perspectives, what direction we were looking from, certainly, physically speaking, but it's also based on our biases. And so history is not ever just a collection of facts, although we try as much as we can to keep it to be objective. But there's also a large degree of bias that's involved when you're creating a history. What gets recorded, what doesn't, what gets preserved, what doesn't, is a matter of bias. And what's important to you and you think should be preserved versus what is important to me and what I think should be preserved aren't always the same thing. And we see that across society. I mean, there are people who feel like, certain parts of history should be destroyed. We should forget about it. We don't want that to be remembered. On the other hand, there are things that, everybody can agree on that should be saved, but then how it gets preserved and to what degree it gets promoted or emphasized is a matter of personal preference. And I think that's one of the challenges around history. And when people talk about preserving monuments or preserving battlefields or preserving homes or what have you, there's this balance some people see as, hey, we need to make progress. And one of the things that you and I have talked about in the past is the home where Gene MacArthur grew up, which was a sister home, if I'm not mistaken, to Oakland's. It was right there off of Greenland, and it was destroyed for progress to build
a doctor's building.
To build a doctor's building
office, which
was important then, but now all the doctor's offices are on the other side of town when they built the new hospital.
It's all gone.
So for the sake of a building that was there for
maybe
20 years, you tore down one that had been there 150 years.
Right.
So I mean, but it's a matter of to the people who had the decision making ability at that time, the doctor's office was more important than preserving the history. And the simple fact is, if you preserve all of history, you don't have anything else. You've got to figure out where to find that balance. And that's always a challenge, and not everybody agrees on it.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that when you're over shopping at the Avenue, there was like 80,000 troops.
My goodness, yeah.
In the battlefield today, I think, Stones, we didn't even cover that, but the 7th place battle of the Civil War was right here. And the first repeating rifle, the Spencer, was right down the road
Hoover's
at the corner of the Battle of Beech Grove, the Battle of Hoover's Gap.
Right, Hoover's Gap, the Wilders
Coffee,
Brigade.
Bedford, Rutherford County.
Mm-hmm.
So
part of the Tullahoma campaign.
And it's like the spoils, go whoever wins gets the spoils, because there was not a lot of Confederate newspapers that survived. I mean,
and it's also whoever wins gets to write the history.
That's right.
So
that's true. But I think we don't want to repeat. There's some of these we do not want to repeat, but we need to know our history to know where we came from, to know where we're going.
Well,
I mean,
I'm reading, actually listening to a book right now called Team of Rivals. It's about Lincoln and his administration, and all of the events that it's talking about leading up to the presidential administration. I'm seeing so many things that were true then that I see true now, in terms of just people that can't find a way to find common ground, and it scares me.
yeah, we don't want to go back. We want to go forward. We can all agree to disagree agreeably. How about that?
I like that.
I think that is I don't know where I got that, but I know that it's somebody very distinguished. It wasn't Mr. Murfreesboro.
Well, it wasn't John Summers either. So,
oh me. So, where do you go? I mean, we've talked about what's your next plan. Do you have any trips lined up? Or
be going to do some research over in East Tennessee next week. I'll be hopefully going over to look at doing some research in Athens on the Battle of Athens, which is a pretty interesting topic. We don't have time to get into that now, I know. But I'll also be researching the next county episode, which will be Bledsoe County. So
you're going from you're going from Anderson all the way up.
I'm going alphabetically. So sorry guys in Wilson County, you're going to be the last.
Well, Rutherford County, we'll be close to the last.
You'll be well on down the list.
We'll be on down the list. So how long do you think it'll take you? A year?
Well, it's going to take me a lot longer than a year. It's going to be like 4 or 5 years. Because I mean, you stop and think about it. If I'm doing, I'm going to say roughly 20 episodes, or excuse me, roughly 50 episodes a year, and half of those are county episodes. I can only do 25 counties a year. 95 counties, that's going to take a while.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. You know, the thing is, history is important, and you are the guy, and I'm the guy that when you're driving through town, and there's a history sign, I always stop and read it.
Oh, by the way, yeah, I'm creating a bumper sticker. I've already got it created. I've just got to get it put on my website with my merchandise. I break for historical markers.
That's it. And tell us again where people can follow you.
They can follow me on any podcast platform. So Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Audible. I'm trying to think of all of them. I mean, there's just a bunch of them out there. And you just look for the Tennessee History Nerd. Or if you're interested in the Gulf Coast podcast, that's Dolphin Island Diaries. Dolphin is not DOLF. Not dolphin, the mammal, the aquatic mammal. DAUPHIN is what that is. It's from the French dauphin, but Dolphin Island Diaries and the Tennessee History Nerd, and I also have the my own website, summersmediaenterprises.com, and all of the information that you need to find out about any of that is out there.
And the Tennessee History Nerd on Facebook and Instagram.
Instagram. TikTok. Maybe on TikTok one of these days. I'm as an old IT guy, I'm a little nervous about their security. So,
John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Everybody, go out and do something nice for somebody. This is Mr. Murfreesboro reporting from the Roundtable.